And that's when I realized I need to get effective tools to work through anxiety, not only for myself, but also to be able to help my son, because I wanted to make sure that I was not doing, as a mother, doing something that was causing more harm or making the anxiety worse, because I know there's certain ways you can say things that can make it worse or better.
What is the difference between stress and anxiety? Has your child or you changed since we went through COVID times? Get all the answers today to how to deal with anxiety both in yourself as well as in your child in this week's amazing episode with our guest, Kristen Ramirez. Kristen Ramirez is a licensed professional counselor and clinical anxiety treatment professional with 17 years experience in the mental health industry. She's also a mother of 2 and an Army wife. Please welcome Kristen to the show. Welcome to the Teaching Your Toddler podcast. This is Mary Jo Tillin, and today we have a very special guest. Kristen Ramirez is joining us today to talk to us about natural solutions for anxiety and other challenges with emotions. Full disclosure, Kristen and I do know each other. We've known each other since 2015, if you can believe it. Oh my goodness, that's a long time. But we've been connected through our health and wellness interests, as well as the natural solutions that we both love in essential oils. So we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get into the show. But Kristen, welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit more about you.
Thanks for having me. My name is Kristen Ramirez. I am a licensed professional counselor and clinical anxiety treatment professional. So my specialty is anxiety. Not only am I educated from the professional standpoint with anxiety, I also personally experience it and work with my son who also has it. So I have experience and exposure from both ends.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Hopefully you'll tell us what you want about that with your son and how that manifested itself. But how did you sort of land on anxiety as your area of interest or specialty?
Great question. As I went through the counseling program, my specialty was actually couples. It was marital couple and family counseling. I loved that piece of it because the dynamics of relationships and how they work together. It was more of self-exploration that got me really interested into anxiety. Because after having my son, I have 2 boys. My oldest is 10 right now. After watching him struggle with anxiety and having the knowledge and education I could identify what he was going through. But what was interesting is I was looking at myself through my son. And that's when I realized I need to get effective tools to work through anxiety, not only for myself, but also to be able to help my son, because I wanted to make sure that I was not doing, as a mother, doing something that was causing more harm or making the anxiety worse, because I know there's certain ways you can say things that can make it worse or better. So I really wanted to educate myself to be the best mom I could and the best person I could, the best wife I could. So I went down this route of tons of continuing education classes and workshops with anxiety, and I got clinically certified to treat anxiety.
Wow.
So
Oh my
that was really
goodness.
neat.
So it was really inspired by your family. That's great. And I hope in a second you'll tell us a little bit about what those triggers can be for people. So before we go there, why don't I don't know if people are listening, maybe they're like, what exactly does anxiety mean? Is it just like tightness in my chest? Is it like I can't concentrate? What is anxiety? What is there a clinical definition, or is there one that you sort of use as a typical definition?
The way I describe anxiety, different from stress, is stress is caused when there is an external stressor present. And the moment that external stressor is removed or taken care of or solved, the stress goes down. So that is from the stress side. Stress is normal. We all have it with various degrees. Now, what makes anxiety different? Anxiety is when you have heightened emotions, anxious feelings that are present without an external stressor. They actually
Mm.
come from within.
Inside. That is a great definition. And so, yeah, because I'm thinking, everybody, pretty much everybody listening to this, I'm sure has a child and they experience stress when their child is upset or, it's the witching hour, it's bedtime or whatever, right? We all stress out. But if that then can, gains momentum and becomes an anxiety where you're dreading bedtime, now you start to feel it inside your chest that you are sad about whatever your child's picky eating or something, right? That's actually causing something internal there. That's your anxiety. That's a really good distinction. I love that you sort of tease that out.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest questions I get is how do I know what I'm feeling?
Mm-hmm.
How do I know that's anxiety?
Mm-hmm.
And I've been there. I've lived my entire life with undiagnosed anxiety, just thinking what I was dealing with was stress. People didn't get me, and I didn't get myself, and I didn't have any tools or solutions to be able to work through it. It was just more or less get over it, or I don't know why you feel the way you do, or you're blowing this up into a bigger deal than it is. I mean, these are repeated conversations I've heard, or statements or feedback I've gotten with myself my whole life, and I didn't know what it was. So
Mm-hmm.
once you figure out what it is, then you have something tangible that you can
Mm-hmm.
start working to solve.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. I think that because, I mean, in America, we're supposed to be stressed. We're supposed to be busy. We're supposed to be doing all the things. Right. And it's almost like a badge of honor to have that whatever activity. But then when it manifests itself more into that, where you're starting to have some physical symptoms and things like that, then now you've gone beyond. Right. And I love that you were able to sort of get that diagnosed and get those tools. And I mean, if you all decide to follow Kristen on Instagram, she's incredibly active and she does great videos and a lot of very informational things that she puts out. So I hope you guys will follow her there because it's great, little bite-sized nuggets of information. So what are some of those symptoms that you do have when you are having, anxiety and anxiety attack or any of the things that kind of go along with that?
Great question. The way I would describe what you feel, it's going to be different. Not everyone experiences anxiety the same.
Mm-hmm.
What I really like my students and my clients to understand is what's going on within their body. And so I want you to think about anxiety as the triggering of your stress response, that fight or flight response. It is ingrained in us, it's embedded in us to keep us safe. So there's an activation of that stress response. And so generally what physically you experience is the rapid heartbeat, the shallower, more rapid breathing. You
Mm-hmm.
get this like huge adrenaline surge, cortisol starts pumping through your body. And basically what is happening in your body is it is prepping you to either fight or flee.
Mm-hmm.
And so once you understand what is innately going on in you, then the next step is, okay, how do I lessen
Mm-hmm.
my stress response
Mm-hmm.
in the moment? And then how am I more preventative to ease it before it even gets to the point of me feeling like I'm having a heart attack or
Mm-hmm.
me having a panic attack on the floor, not being able to function?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh man. And so you mentioned before that you saw these symptoms in your son. So I know that everyone listening has kids. How will they know if it's not just they're angry, they're hungry, they're tired versus they have some issues that need to be addressed?
I would say because you are experienced with your own child, you're going to notice patterns with them. You're going to notice when they're hungry and how they act. You're going to notice if they're tired. It's like you had mentioned the bewitching hour. We always are like, all right, we're getting close to the bewitching hour. So understand that all of that stuff is going to be normal. There are ways in which you can help ease those moments. But when it comes to anxiety, anxiety sounds more like this: the constant worry. So if you look at what symptoms you're looking for, one of the key symptoms with anxiety is intrusive worry. So if you hear them asking you the same question over and over and over and over, and the answer you're giving them is not good enough, and you can see them having like almost panic about it, that could be an indicator.
Hmm.
Um, it could be, and anxiety itself can really be focused on very different things. And so it could be health-wise. Let's say your child is always worried that something bad is going to happen, like, oh, my leg hurts. Does that mean like something bad's happening? If you're hearing these repeated questions, it could be linked to something more than just stress.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the intrusive, repeated thoughts or worries that
Mm.
you're hearing them say. I saw an increase of this after COVID,
Mm.
where we as moms and parents were trying to be keeping our kids as healthy as we could. So it's like, don't touch that, wash your hands, don't breathe on that, don't touch your face. And we were so concerned and worried about them getting infected that we were trying to be as preventative as possible.
Mm-hmm.
But what ended up happening to kids that have anxiety is they grew these phobias of germs more, to
Mm.
where it's like, oh my gosh, should I wash my hands? And like you see this panic in them.
Mm.
Or do you think this food is clean? Or can we go to that place? Are people wearing masks? I mean, if you can get the sense of not even what they're saying, but how you hear them saying it, the tone of their voice. If you're sensing some sort of panic, that could be an indicator.
That, I mean, that's kind of a new thing for all of us, right? Like none of us knew how to deal with that situation. It was brand new, and we inadvertently, I think, did that. You mentioned earlier, sort of the way we say things. How would you then sort of approach to sort of lessen that response for our kids?
So I will explain that with an example. One of the things my son was fearful of
Mm-hmm.
is someone breaking in the house and harming him. And the interesting thing is, we've never experienced that. So it's
Mm.
not coming from a place of memory or experience. It is
Mm-hmm.
just something that has been concerned about. So what's generally not helpful for someone that's in an anxious state is telling them, "Oh, you're okay. Oh, just get over it." Because it makes them feel belittled for feeling the way that they do, and there's no resolution in that statement for them. So some of the other ways you can say is, get curious, start asking questions. What are you afraid of? When did this start? What do you think would happen? Start asking questions and listen. And listen with more curiosity. Because as parents, we often want to just nip it in the butt. Oh, that's not going to happen. You're fine. The door's locked. We're good. Go to bed. You need to go to bed. Rushing that process.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be another thing, is slow down and be present with them. Let them know that you are there for them and hear them out. And then one of the things I do, and this depends on how old your child is. If your child is still a toddler, then it's more or less physically showing them that you're there. They're not going to have the verbal skills to be able to tell you what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So you're just being intuitive and paying
Mm-hmm.
attention. If they're really fighting going to bed, you're putting them in that crib and they are screaming like they're getting their leg caught or hurt or something like
Right.
that. Generally, parents can hear a difference in kids cry, whether it's for attention or they're really hurt or they're scared. So it's just paying attention to the tone
Mm-hmm.
and then seeing what you can do in that moment to support them. So with toddlers, one of the ways that I help with the temper tantrums, with calming the anger that they experience, with the frustration, is through aromatherapy.
Hmm.
because it's so simple and I don't have to know exactly what's going on to start helping my toddler. And so I have certain essential oils that I use and I put in a diffuser and I put it in their room before bed, or if they're at home during the day, I am putting it in a diffuser in the living room where we are at most active. And I get the ability to support their emotional wellness simply by diffusing high quality essential oils. It is key to make sure that the essential oils you're getting is sourced well. You want to make sure you get the best essential oils because the best essential oils give the best results. And so that is one of the tools that I use, especially, I mean, it's something I use today still. But when they're toddlers, when they can't communicate what's going on, that is a very easy, simple way
Mhm.
to support their frustration, their anxious emotions, because the quickest way to connect to emotions is actually through our sense of smell.
The olfactory nerve.
Yes.
That's interesting. I always use this example, but I remember one time I was doing exactly that. I was diffusing the balance blend that we have, and oh my gosh, the kids, they would normally have been fighting and whatever because it was like almost dinner time, and I just knew this was whatever, and I had it on, and they were so peaceful and happy. And I know that's a sample size of one time, but
Mhm.
it was just like, oh my gosh, I feel like they were responding, didn't know because it was, it was out of their sight. They weren't aware at that time that I was doing that a lot.
Mhm.
Now they know, like I mean, now they ask for things. They ask, can I have, whatever digestin or the blends and things like that. But I love that is a great unintrusive way without having to even get, not even having oils on them, putting oils on their body. You're getting them into their body through their olfactory nerve. That's fantastic. Are there I want to talk more about that, but are there other, sort of methods that you use as well to help them calm? I mean, do you do like a bath? Do you turn down the lights? Like, what are some of the other things that you can help with calming them down?
It depends on their developmental level.
Mm-hmm.
So my son, he's one I'm able to talk to, and he knows what's going on. He's very intuitive
Mm-hmm.
with himself. So we can have a verbal communication for me to be able to identify what's going on for him.
Mm-hmm.
So if your child is like that, one of the ways you can help them in the moment when they're feeling anxious is help them trace back what they're thinking about in that moment. Because as I mentioned, anxiety is a process of worry,
Mm-hmm.
intrusive thoughts that go on consistently. So
Mm-hmm.
getting down to what are you worried about?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
then just trying to, it's like peeling an onion. Ask more exploratory questions to get at the root cause of it. And that's how I was able to figure out that my son was scared of someone breaking in the house.
Ah.
So what I did is I shared with him, I asked him, I said, what
Mm-hmm.
are the odds
This is
of
gonna
that
happen.
actually happening? Do you
Mm-hmm.
think they're really high? Do you think they're somewhere in the middle? Or do you think they're pretty low? And I'm letting him process this.
Mm-hmm.
I ask and I'm quiet. And then he says, low.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, so what do you think we can do to make that even lower?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we can lock the door. Okay, the door's locked. What else?
Mm-hmm.
We can make sure the window's locked. Okay, windows are locked. If we have an alarm, we can make sure the house alarm's on. Okay, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so you're listening to them already start searching for solutions. It's one thing to tell them, yeah,
Yeah.
I locked the door, the windows are locked, the alarm's on. But if you let them pull that out of themselves, it
Mm-hmm.
will help them calm
Oh yeah.
much better.
I've always heard too that, when you ask a question, it's actually engaging their brain better, their frontal cortex or whatever, so that they actually sort of have to, project it out instead of, like you're saying, you're giving it to them. They have to intake it versus engaging their brain and having to give it back to you, right? That
Exactly.
answer.
You're engaging a different part of the brain. So it
Mhm.
almost helps them snap out of that sense of worry for the moment because they have to be
Mm.
very aware.
Mhm. Well, and I would assume, and I don't know, maybe this is not true, but when you were talking about the fight or flight, that's our deep brain, right? Our lizard brain, and so when you can kind of get them out of that and get them engaged more in the other part of their brain, their thinking part of their brain, then I would think that would help, like you said, make that shift a bit better.
Yes.
Yeah,
You had
fantastic.
mentioned bath too and routine. So routines all always important.
Hmm.
So much emphasis is put on a night routine, but I really look at it starting in the morning.
Mm.
What's the routine look like? Are you getting out of bed? Are you letting them sleep with the window, like with the blinds open?
Mm.
Because there's an innate body clock in us. And in order to trigger that circadian rhythm, getting
Mm.
natural sunlight in our eyes is so helpful. So people that sleep with the blackout curtains and blinds closed and stuff, they have a harder time waking up. So if you
Mhm.
simply just keep the blinds open or the curtains open and allow that natural sunlight to come in their room, then they'll generally wake up better on their
Mm.
own, which will
Mhm.
then set a better tone for the rest of the day.
Right.
I love baths, so that's a way that we wind down.
Mhm.
My oldest doesn't. So
Mm.
it really is paying attention to what they want. And as a mom, I have found the most effective way to help your kids is giving them choices. Do you
Mm.
want to do this or do you want to do this? Because you
Mhm.
allow them to feel like they're in control. And that's really important for our kids because so much of the time is spent someone dictating to them what they need to do.
Yeah.
So if you step back and you look at it from the sense of, okay, what do I want them to do? And what are some options that I can give them to where it
Mhm.
still directs them in the same place,
Right.
but they get more of a say. So, do you want to take a shower or do you want to take a bath? Do
Mm.
you want to read before you take a bath? Do you want to read after? And then one of the other things with the essential oils is I always, when they were babies, I'd roll essential oils on the bottom of their feet every night, put socks
Mm.
on them.
Mm.
Not only is it helpful for their emotions, but I wanted to support their physical wellness because
Mhm.
we operate best when we physically feel good. So if you
Mm.
are taking care of your physical health, of your child's
Mhm.
physical health, their emotions are going to be better too.
Mm. Mhm.
And
They
then
go hand in
now they
hand.
do it themselves.
Mhm.
Yes.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that's our routine. They have their own oils on their bed, on their nightstands,
Oh,
and
wow.
they know when they get in bed, they're rolling them on.
Oh my
They know
gosh.
before they go to school, they're rolling them on. It's part of our habit. It's part of our routine.
Wow. Oh, man. Do they carry any with them when they go to school, or are they allowed to do that?
So one of the things we uncovered a couple years ago with my son that I was telling you about is he started getting test anxiety.
Mm.
He's so smart and he's such a perfectionist. He
Mhm.
would really struggle if he got something wrong or if he didn't know something. And it would actually create so much of a panic in him. He would start crying and he could not finish the test. And so, I mean, it was like teacher after teacher, and it started in preschool. They were telling me he is very hard on himself.
Mm. Mhm.
And so I once I correlated, it took me a while. So that's something I also want to share with your listeners is be patient with yourself. We're not perfect
Mm.
and it's normal for it to take some time for you to connect the dots.
Mhm.
Even as a professional in mental health, it took me a while to connect the dots.
Mhm.
But to answer your question, once I realized he had test anxiety, I spoke to his teacher and he had his own blends of essential oil that would help calm his mind and support focus that he would use before the test.
Oh,
She
wow.
also allowed him, if he needed to take a break, to
Mhm.
be able to take a break and he'd reapply. And we talked through and we practiced at home so he knew what to do in those moments.
Okay.
And so that's one of the ways that he worked through it. And he felt so empowered because he it was able to tackle it himself, which
Yeah.
was so cool to see.
Oh my gosh, it's so good that the teacher also was supportive of that and allowed him to do that. That's so good. Well, I hope that the listeners are thinking, well, how would I do that for my own kid? And I think you said that you have something available that if people wanted to learn more about the oils, they would be able to find that out.
Yes, I have a free workshop called Emotions and the Brain, where I teach you how to work with your emotions, how your mind works, how it's connected into your heart, and how it's connected into your gut, and how you can use essential oils as a natural way to support not only your emotions and wellness, but your child's. And as a
Mm,
parent, generally we want to put the focus on our children first. Well, this
mm-hmm,
workshop's going to help you gain the tools to be able to do both. You don't have to
mm-hmm,
pick and choose.
mm-hmm.
And I think you mentioned we can put it in the show notes.
Yes.
So we'll put the link to this free workshop in the show notes.
Mm-hmm.
And then after watching this, if this is something that you're interested in, reach out to Mary Jo
Okay.
because she can help get you connected to further information and help you get connected to the best option for you and your family's needs.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. We'll make sure that that's in the show notes. I'll also include my email so that if anybody is listening and they want to hear more about what those natural solutions are that are free of chemicals, and like Kristen mentioned earlier, that they are not adulterated. They're the highest quality oils. One of the things that is always sad is people will buy oils from Amazon or online or in a store that they don't know what the sourcing looks like. And so the great part about the oils that we can connect you to, we know all the sourcing. I mean, down to the crazy geeky science, we can break it down for you. So we know that they are as pure as possible to put anything on your body or your child's body, of course. So I know that you also have a specific program that you've put together for emotions. Tell us a little bit about the program that you have.
So I have a course called Overcoming Anxiety Naturally. I put this together as a way to help bridge the gap between the struggles that you or maybe your child is currently going through and walking you through step by step how to get to a place to know how to reduce it effectively and naturally.
Oh, wow.
And so right now I am currently in the middle of my live course launch. This was going to be my first and only one. And then I was just going to have everything pre-recorded, ready to go for you to get at any time if you wanted this course. However, I've also learned so much in this process. I'm going to do a second live launch that is going to even surpass what I've been sharing with my current students. So if you want to learn more about this program that I have, we can put the link in the show notes as well.
Yes.
Get on my wait list. It's super
Perfect.
easy, super simple to do. And I will share with you what's coming up and what to look out for because it's going to be incredible.
Oh, that's perfect. So just to make a distinction, there is a difference. There's the mini course that is the education about natural solutions. And then this is Kristen's comprehensive course that she is actually physically helping you coach through. So there's two options that she's got that we talked about there. And I know both of them are just going to be such good solutions for people to find out, what's going on in their brain and what can they do to help themselves, besides taking pharmaceuticals and things like that maybe you aren't necessarily wanting to do, because of course there's certainly drugs to help with this, but I think if you've listened this long in the show, you probably are pretty committed to knowing that there are also great natural solutions as well. So Kristen, thank you so much for joining us today. Before I let you go, please let us know how to find you. Of course, we'll put all of this in the show notes so that people can instantly click and follow you wherever you went. But tell us more about that before we say goodbye.
You can find me on Instagram at Kristen Ramirez LPC. And I have a link in my bio that has a quick access to all of the workshops, all of the things that we've talked about and more. On Facebook, I believe you can still look at Kristen Ramirez LPC, but my name on Facebook is Holistic Anxiety Coach. So depending on what platform you use, you can find me either one of those.
Perfect. Awesome. And again, we'll make sure that those are linked so that people can get them directly. Thank you again so much for joining us today. It's been such a pleasure talking to you about all of this great stuff. I heard a lot of interesting information that you and I have never even talked about, even having known each other for such a long time. But I really appreciate your time. And again, thanks for joining the Teaching Your Toddler show.
Thanks for having me.
This has been the Teaching Your Toddler podcast with Mary Jo Tinlin. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you'll find us on our website at teachingyourtoddler.com, as well as on Facebook at Teaching Your Toddler, on Instagram, and on Twitter at Teaching Toddler. So join us again, and I hope you have a wonderful week. Thank you so much.